Hi, guys. Welcome again to the Third and 10 podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Nguyen. I know, kind of weird. An episode being released on a Monday is not usual, but I wanted to get this out as soon as possible because it is starring a special guest, someone who I hold close to my heart, Coach Antone Wilson. He was one of our guests from season 2 of the Third and 10 podcast and is a big influence in my podcasting career. He joined the show to discuss some college football, the NFL landscape, and everything in between.
Without further ado, man, I mean, okay, I'm looking at it right now from like casual fan, anywhere between the ages of like 26 and like 55. Been in sports for a while, played it growing up, live in one of the major cities, has a team, or maybe supports a team that was your family's team, and you got a college team as well. And throughout the years, you fell in love with many college stars. The Reggie Bushes, the Johnny Manziels, the Tim Tebow's. Like, just think about everyone's admiration for the football world, right? And everything it has to offer every single Sunday and Saturday as well. And what we loved and why I like talking about college football is because what it means to every single university. It's like it is like a club soccer team. It's like international soccer. It just means so much. I think that's where we see it on like the largest scale in American sports is college football. But no. Did anyone know there were games going on from August 23rd to September 1st? And then you have a couple games going on over Memorial Day weekend onto that Monday. And so people aren't really like aware. This is like the first weekend where like everyone knew exactly what's going on.
Yes.
So now it's like college football is here. But last week, there were some good games, man. I caught a couple. I was skimming through the channels. I didn't watch any games live, but I went down the highlights and watched about 18 minutes of cut-ups. But even just some of the matchups going into it. And with the hype, because we're starting to get a little bit more familiar with some stars. Maybe there's been a lot of turnover with coaches and quarterbacks because like the portal and coaches are like on a 2-year leash with boosters. So it's hard to really know like, well, who's where and stuff. There's so much movement. But I would say for the most part that like the top quarterbacks, like skilled players, some of the guys that are on the cover of the NCAA game, like we know who they are. We're watching them.
Of course.
And watching Coach Prime. So like Georgia Tech, Colorado, that was the first game that I was glued to. Colorado gets 3 turnovers in the first 8 minutes of the game, which I knew this would happen, losing all those perimeter players in the quarterback, but they were so experienced that they were like the heart and soul of that team. But the other parts of the team are a little older now. The O-line, a little bit more experienced.
Yes.
So secondaries, number 8, Hood. I forget his first name. He had a big interception. He's a good player. They also, Isaiah Harge, a guy that Coach Prime talked about, the kid I'm really familiar with.
Yes.
My God, really happy to see that he has blossomed within that program. And also Omarion Miller and Draylon Miller. Those are like, they have pieces. Caden Salter, who's been at Liberty, who's been balling out. He definitely has a resume. He's played a lot of football. And then another young quarterback waiting in the wings. So the smooth transition. So Colorado, right? While they did lose a lot of star power, the future's looking good as far as their pieces, but they don't have a magnetic personality that I feel like Dion needs as an extension of him, which is why I feel like Shadeur was like a unstoppable force. He kind of had like that when he would get into a zone, you can kind of feel like when he threw the Hail Mary, it's like nothing can stop him. It's like that. Like you very rarely see a quarterback get in a zone. It was like, again, some may call it like God being connected, playing with the source, but like playing with a level of belief. Deion Sanders as a coach has that belief. He can get the kids to believe as a collective, but he needs one leader that can control the game that believes to the same level that he believes. And he does not have that right now. So the offense was flat. What I liked is that they ran the ball. They had 3 guys have over 10 carries. So there's a commitment to the run game. And the offensive line is not so elementary anymore. So they're probably doing some more gap scheme stuff, which is great to see. And the defense got some stops. But Georgia Tech, I couldn't even tell you who their head coach is. Couldn't tell you one player on their roster, just being totally honest. And I know they've had a lot of turnover since being a triple option team. But Georgia Tech upset a top 10 Florida State team last year in the opener out in Ireland. And then they upset this Colorado team. And so I feel like Georgia Tech's kind of been that middle of the road sort of dog, kind of like the Cincinnatis, the Texas Techs, the Baylors of the world, like those programs, the Kansases, Like, that's what Georgia Tech is doing. So that was a solid, gritty game, man. But right after that, LSU Clemson prime time. That was the game. Did you watch that game?
I
Like
did
live?
watch that game.
Live?
It was a lot of fun watching it,
It was
man.
electric. It was electric. You see Dabo Swinney. Again, you may have fallen out of football for a little bit, but it's opening weekend. And let's say you're catching Clemson play. Like, wow, I remember when Clemson hadn't won one national title. Then Deshaun, then Trevor Lawrence. Like, wow, they really did it. Dabo Swinney's like really here. He's like a legend now. Saban's gone. Dabo's it. And they're running down the hill.
I love the hill. That's my favorite tradition.
It was beautiful, man. Saturday evening. Like, come on, dude. It gets no better than that. 3-day weekend? What?
It was amazing. No doubt, Coach.
But LSU, man, and this is what I was impressed with. This is what I walked away. There's a lot of hype on Arch Manning, but Brian Kelly, he's a good football coach. And he's got some dogs down at LSU. And they've been doing at the wide receiver position, but the linebackers and the defensive backs are just scary. They just have a plethora of guys that are big and can run. So all things considered, they're kind of like they're always as athletic as Alabama. Physically.
Yes.
But Garrett Nussmeier.
Oh, I'm excited for him.
I think he might be the best quarterback in this upcoming class, to be honest with you. Ooh. No guarantee Arch is coming out, but Arch still has a lot to prove. But I think Nussmeier just is kind of like a throwback quarterback, that just does all the stuff. Like big, strong arm, mechanical, has a little bit of swagger as well, like not a little extra. He's just like the most good athlete. He's like a better Joe Flacco. Like what Joe Flacco was as a prospect. You know what I mean? There's some quarterbacks that give you that kind of feel. I give you like 2 or 3 other guys that give you that feel. They're just bland. Like Ben Roethlisberger was a prospect like that, and his career was much of like that. Phillip Rivers also was as well. They didn't want to draft him with the number 1 overall pick, so like they swapped him because everyone knew that Phillip Rivers' value didn't have like a number 1 pick value, but Marty Schottenheimer fell in love with him coaching at the Senior Bowl, and he was a 5 years in college, 4-year starter. We're like, there's nothing spectacular about Phillip Rivers. Like pretty, like okay arm, moves okay, pretty good size, but he's just gonna get it done. Like Nussmeier makes me feel, and I may be even saying his name wrong, but within LSU and the defense and the structure, I was like, okay, this is a pro. This is a pro right here. LSU is a good football team.
Yeah, it was kind of low scoring. I mean, it ended 17-10, but Nussmeier, he looked good. 230 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 20 at 38, so he was efficient. LSU receivers they're quick, they're great, and Aaron Anderson as a guy I'm a big fan of as well. Recognize him from the NCAA 26, but I digress. No, but he's a speedy guy, had 6 catches and 9 yards against Clemson. Caden Durham is another interesting player to watch out for too. The starting running back for LSU had a touchdown as well last week against Clemson. So he's good.
I didn't like the criticism of Clemson's quarterback. He's a returning player. He has some hype. Could be a first-round pick, maybe. I don't know. He does some good things. He's a leader. Seems to be an extension of Dabo. Strong arm. Plays well within the system. I've watched a pretty good amount of him. What I didn't like was everyone coming down on him pretty hard. And even Dabo actually came down on him in the press conference, actually. And granted, he's experienced. But in football, calling guys trash and stuff, or being so harsh on a guy over one game or against a very good team, it just makes it so unwarranted. It's a long season. Games are long. There are highs and lows. I guess it's just with the media cycle nowadays, people just are emotional about how they feel. I guess in the sense of the players and the programs a little bit, where it's just I don't know. I think people are missing the big picture when they're evaluating players and teams. But I get it. Fans are just that, fanatics.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially after a bad game, they'll either the coaching staff or not the coaching staff, but rather the fan base will always go off on the coaching staff, the players, and just say all these things where it's it's only been 1 week. Let's settle down, let's not get too far. It's been 1 week, and it's crazy because last week was just filled with usually when you think of college football, the first week, week 1, it's filled with tune-up games, an Ohio State versus Georgia State, for example. Not to say that, those type of games. But but this year we saw Clemson, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas to start the year. all these interesting games. And it's like, why are these games in week one? Like, why aren't they like week two or later in the year? So it was kind of refreshing to kind of see these games to start up to kick off the season. I will say for me, definitely my attention was my college football attention started last week instead of the week before because no one cares about week zero. Like,
For
sure, did I watch highlights of Stanford, Hawaii week zero 2 weeks ago? Sure, maybe just because Stanford's a California team. Andrew Luck's the GM now. Crazy how we call it.
I love that.
I know, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm just like, okay, great, okay. A former NFL player is a GM at a college. They lost to Hawaii to a kicker who learned how to kick through YouTube, a couple of years ago, and he's Asian. Like that's how they lost. Okay, I guess. So that was my college football experience so far this season. Uh, I know,
So I think everyone's, for the most part, was Ohio State, Texas, right?
pretty much.
And obviously Florida State, Alabama, that was a good one as
That
well.
was
It will run
Castellanos. Shout
down.
out to him.
It's funny, and as we talked about off air, football's in a good spot, man. A lot of games, a lot of stuff.
Yes,
A lot of people. Some people might not even know college football started last week, and so all these things going on. Now we're in a full week two, first Saturday in September. Come on, man.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on, man. It's exciting.
It really is. It
But
really
Ohio
is.
State and Texas, right?
I want to get your thoughts
Did you
on
watch
that for
this
sure.
one? Did you watch
I
this
did.
one?
No, it was the noon game. Unfortunately, I did sleep in. Granted, I didn't miss much. Well, from an offensive standpoint, I didn't miss too much because the game
Well, it
ended
wasn't much.
14-7. It really wasn't. But yeah, I mean, first game for Arch Manning for this season because okay, last year, right? Arch started a few games. Everyone comes into this season like, oh, he's gonna be the Heisman favorite, blah blah blah. And granted, I don't wish bad on anybody, but at the same time, just like guys, he played his weakest or his toughest opponent last year that he played was what, UTSA. Like, why is he getting all the Heisman hype? Like, why isn't it going to like a Nussmeier or a Nicholas Singleton from Penn State? Just an example for a couple guys to name, or Jeremiah Smith. Like, why aren't those guys getting more attention to get the Heisman instead of Arch? So, your thoughts on that game, Coach? Because he did look bad, quote unquote bad, but if you look into it further, I think it's safe to say he did pretty okay against a tough Ohio State defense.
So historically speaking, University of Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, Michigan, USC, they play tough week one games. This is how I look at it. It's traditionally blue bloods because those type of teams only meet in BCS bowl games once a year. You're not going to get a Miami, Notre Dame. You see what I'm saying? Or like
Really,
Ohio State, Texas. If they meet in the playoffs, maybe. But what I mean by these schools is that these are the juggernauts, like the Penn States, the Michigans, historically as well, infinite budgets, boosters, legacy, all things considered. So when Texas, like when them boys from Texas are traveling up north to Columbus, it's like totally different worlds. But because Ohio State, they sit high on the throne of everyone in the Big Ten. They can go down to the SEC and compete with those teams and not be afraid. And a lot of those Florida boys, those Georgia boys, South Carolina, they're all going to Ohio State. But in Texas, and again, Texas has their culture. And again, they can recruit all in Texas if they wanted to. So when Texas and Ohio State face, that's a collision of two football juggernauts. Them playing, to me, when they play in a week one game like that, it's a cancel out. Because everyone that they play, they're going into as the favorite. Yes, they're going to be challenged, but it's giving them a super high threshold of allowing their team to like just see what they have in the opener. And then every game that's like afterwards, they're going to beat down because they're already going to get exposed to championship level football, which is why you want your team to do that. And a really confident older roster is going to not be phased by taking a loss or two early in some tough games and coming together down the stretch. Because what you'll see oftentimes is teams will start off 7-0, 8-0, and then they'll erode to like a 9-4. There's like stories like Iowa State last year. They were starting to kind of creep into the playoff mix. It's a momentum thing, and that's teams that they're not ready to win. They're not ready to be champions. So the mindset from those coaches when they schedule a game like that is that they really want to see what the team has immediately. The Texas is trying to give Arch that experience of going against Ohio State secondary for the first time. He hasn't seen it. They're fortunate enough that being a redshirt one and then allowing him to get some time, Quinn Ewers going down a little bit because Quinn Ewers was projected to be a first-round pick going into last year. His injuries and his play led to his regression. But all things considered, Archie Manning hasn't played a lot of football. Not to say that like that Arch isn't like a good prospect and stuff, but that allows bad habits to kind of seep in, even with like watching. Like it's like you're watching my boy. It's like he doesn't need to go in the NFL. Well, from watching for 2 years, I guess it's the different outlook with him is he's not a kid that's hungry for money, so he can take his time within it. So I guess all things considered, as a redshirt sophomore, right? If you're looking at a 4 or 5 year play within his development, I guess he's just maybe not as far as what people think he is. And he just hasn't played a lot of football. We're expecting a lot right away, but he's also playing a really good football team. So it's just going to be a compound, but there's probably going to be some interceptions because you want to see him being aggressive too. If he hits 3-4 touchdowns against a top 20 team early, like, oh, Arch is here. And then, 2 picks come late in the third quarter when they're up by 20 points, you can't get mad at him for that because he's like trying to be mad aggressive. So if you see picks and stuff, so you can't get caught in the numbers, but I think he's a guy, man. I think that he plays with a lot of passion, and I think he's a leader. And I think that Steve, like Sarkisian's a good coach, and I think Texas is ready to make a run. So obviously Ohio State's a big dog, and they could slip up at any point within their regular season. But I think that game set the tone. And what I love about it is that it was low scoring. Because people think football is fireworks, and it's not. It's a dogfight. And so much credit to Matt Patricia and the game plan that he drew up and what he's doing with Ohio State's secondary right now. They lost a really good defensive coordinator. I believe his name's Jim Knowles to Penn State. He was the architect behind behind Ohio State being so dominant last year. And that's also another reason why I think Penn State is favored with the returning quarterback to make a run because their defense getting that upgrade and they've retooled as well with some players. Man, I think that the Texas, Ohio State, it's great to see those two teams play. I think they set the stage. Everyone needs to just relax on our analysis of either teams. It's a really long season, and I think that they're both going to suffer some losses in conference play. So
hopefully only one, because obviously to lose to kick off against each other, the loser of the matchup, which is unfortunately Texas, it's not gonna matter down the stretch because it's like the committee will look at this and be like, okay, if Texas's only loss was to Ohio State, like that's a respectable loss because that is a top 10 team. So hopefully we'll see them again face each other in the playoffs. Hopefully, and as we speak, Arch Manning is doing quite well in his second game of the 2025 season against my former alma mater, San Jose State. So he looks good. He looks good. I was looking into it as we're talking Texas, but I will say for Ohio State. Yeah, real quick about Ohio State though. I know we talk about Arch, but I'm not sure about your thoughts on Jeremiah Smith. He didn't do too much. 6 catches, 43 yards in week 1. I assume you have no worries about him. You see him going to be doing just fine this season, correct?
Yes, I think he's far more focused than Ryan Williams, far less distractions, just a better overall kid. I think the main thing with him. I also think Texas is a good team. I don't think he's ever probably faced a team that was getting after him. To be honest with you, I think that he was just better than every single defensive back that guarded him. I think that they were probably throwing some guys at him, which Texas has. Texas can change up. They can jam him. They can put one guy high, one guy low. They're just like, we're not going to let this monster beat us. They're like, so of course that's going to happen. And it's early and there's hype. You know what I mean? And last year they had other receivers. he's the clear number one now.
He is.
They have two other running backs and other NFL receivers.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's why it's a little different. So yeah, still growing pains with him, but he's still going to be the number one overall pick.
He's going to be just fine. Now, you mentioned Ryan Williams, and this is one of the topics I was looking forward to actually for today, Coach, because he's a guy, as we know, one of the cover athletes on CFB 26. But he hasn't done much since, I believe he told me after last September against Georgia. And that game was electric, by the way. Both teams, Georgia, Bama, they were going off against each other. It was an offensive shootout, which I love. You know me, I love offense. What happened? I'm confused. I don't understand. He didn't look that great last week. And I'm just like, where did he go? Like, he's just not. We haven't seen him really produce much since that Georgia game.
All right, Nate. I don't want to go out in the weeds here, but what I'm going to tell you, in sports, when stars emerge, is that it's magical. One thing that comes to mind is Jeremy Lin. Another one is Odell Beckham, because Odell Beckham somewhat, in his mind, slid in the draft. But he was fortunate but he also didn't have a lot of production. Like, he had good production at LSU. They didn't throw the ball. We didn't have a high volume of production like other receivers in that class. But it was freakishly talented. So when he went to the Giants, he kept hurting his hamstring. And Victor Cruz was the number one at that time. But he came in like week 3 or 4 and was sort of out of nowhere to then making that catch. To then people kept learning more about like his life. His mom ran track. His dad played at LSU. He grew up with Shaq. And like it was like all these things kept us all like surfaced on him. Well, Ryan Williams, right, with Alabama last week. First of all, Jalen Milroe had been there. They had returned a lot of players. Had a dynamic quarterback. I'm not a fan of Milroe, but they were a much better roster last year. It was only year 1 post Saban. And Ryan Williams came out the gate really hot. And Alabama appeared at certain times, but they didn't miss a beat. And so Ryan Williams was the forefront of that. And why this matters is because he was a 17-year-old sensation that is somewhat of the offspring of the Caleb Williams paint your nails, colorful hair, TikTok generation with like the paint on his eye black. And he is totally playing the Instagram game. So you definitely, for one, because it's somewhat feminine in a type of way, is that he's a polarizing player for sure. And now all eyes are on him. And even down the stretch, you could say, oh, he had some big games and some big spots, but you can go deeper, that which we did, looking at some games. I said, him showing up against Georgia was incredibly impressive. Another solid game against Vanderbilt. Then another one was against Charleston Southern or Georgia Southern. But he had a pretty electric game. He averaged over 20 yards a catch last year. But heading into this season now, with Alabama having a first-year starter at quarterback, that they have a year of film on DeBauer's staff and what he does, and Ryan Williams being featured, and Florida State, again, probably game planning around the fact that they're not going to let him beat them, and him appearing to be mentally fragile, which you can totally see in a guy like that, because once he's getting jammed around and drops the ball, he just eroded. And so it leaves you to wonder, it's not like he's in the league, and he's already rich. What is a kid like that going to become? I think that there's going to be a lot of tales like that in the NIL, and I love that. And if he can totally still be a superstar. He could totally back.
There's still plenty.
But the truth will rise to the surface on who a kid is if he wants to expose himself to that life and be a celebrity, because he's really teetering the lines of like trying to be like a star way more than football way too early, and that makes people really uncomfortable. I don't give a shit. I just think that if a kid like him is going to act like that and like be like The Weeknd or like a Playboy Cardi or like the young kids say, one of these lions, then he better ball out. He better ball out, mate. He has to. He has to. I can't see this. I can't see him being fragile. He's got to be a dog. And if he is, I think off the field, if he wants to live like Lawrence Taylor, I think he gets a pass with that too.
Why,
but he has to ball.
He has to ball. And he hasn't balled.
He hasn't balled.
No.
Like even Odell was balling. So he kind of earned the right to behave like that. And when he wasn't balling, it was just like, Odell, you can't be going to Paris anymore. No one cares. No one cares about your Instagram posts. We haven't seen you in a game in 2 years. Dolphins, Ravens. Like, What's up, man? What's up, man? Like that's the relationship you get with the public if you want to put all the attention on you, especially in the football world, because it's different than basketball. It's like when a football player starts coming like a basketball star.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham was out there selling sneakers, bro. So you got to really think of Ryan Williams is trying to be like that. That's what it appears to me. So you can't be letting Florida State just do that to you. Now, no, everyone thinks you suck and Florida State has arrived.
Shout out to Thomas Castellanos for backing up his talk. I'm sure you remember, Coach, in the summertime, he was like, "Yeah, Bama's how Nick Saban isn't there to save Alabama anymore," and well, he was right. I know Kalen DeBoer is a good coach, from what I've seen. I'm not a big follower of him. You know, he was
Michael
great
Penix, the way he did at Washington, he had Washington rolling. He deserves to be there, man. He's a good football coach, for sure.
Oh, yeah, he is for sure. So, but I will say there has been some criticism of him because Bama hasn't looked the same at times.
The standard's high. The standard's really, really high, man. That's all.
Do you feel like it's just like he's in like a rough spot to be the?
No, I think that he's just more of like an intellectual. He has a different approach to coaching that really fits the temperature of the Pacific Northwest. And I think that fit in the college football world is essential. Like the right coach has to be in the right community. Like PJ Fleck at University of Minnesota. PJ Fleck was coveted for some NFL jobs at Western Michigan. He's dynamic, he's energetic, and he could have bounced around. And Minnesota's been competitive, high, low, but he's got something really rolling there. He's got strong culture. He's a good fit. James Franklin at Penn State, good fit. Really good fit. Like as these guys kind of like step in, where guys bounce around, and the college football world's cutthroat, climbing the ladder. I think Alabama and their administration was like, okay, we have the money to get any coach we want. This is a prestigious scholarship, so whatever coach we want. They probably wanted to get Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney went to Alabama. They probably offered him, to be honest with you. And then they probably saw, who's the next best coach? We can't get Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh just played Washington in the national championship. Just like, really, that's probably the chain of just like, he was the third guy on the list. But he just doesn't culturally fit. They do a number. He's like, oh my God, Alabama. He probably should have just stayed at Washington.
But should have.
You know who the next guy who would have been to get the call probably would have been was Lane Kiffin.
Ole Miss.
To be honest with you, I think if Billy Napier gets fired, I think Lane Kiffin gets a look at that job as well. I think that Florida is somewhat perceived to be a more prestigious job than Ole Miss, and they would look at an in-conference team and try to steal their coach. They think that they could.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I do want to say, talking about that, a lot of interesting topics, man. Florida State's an interesting program to look at with Mike Norvell and where they've been over the course of the last 3 years with musical chairs at quarterback as a byproduct of the portal. Them thinking that they weren't going to miss a beat with Ukulele last year and probably a win now roster. The roster was still pretty good from the team that made that run the year before. Unfortunately, they had the injury at quarterback. Who that kid just retired? What was his name? I'm 13. He got drafted by the Jets. The Florida State quarterback 3 years ago.
Oh, Jordan Travis. Yes. Jordan Travis, unfortunately.
Yes. So from Jordan Travis to DJ Ukulele. That Jordan Travis team that was really dynamic, that had almost made it to the playoff. They had a strong roster and they had a good thing going on at Florida State. That was Mike Norvell really getting them rolling. To then the second year with Ukulele, they're thinking this is a guy that has experience. We're going to be a playoff team. Obviously, once you lose a game like that, they just crap down their leg, and I'm sure they have to turn over the roster. But Florida State has guys, and that's a staff that knows how to win. So bringing in a Gus Malzahn, who's been a head coach, like we've discussed on off air, as you know, I'm a huge fan of his. Because Florida State gets big bodies, and they play pro style. They always play kind of like a pro style football. Like always really good linebackers, good tight ends, good defensive backs. That's why they can compete with an Alabama because of like their athletic guys, good running backs. They're a really Florida State has been a phenomenal program over the course of the last 40 years. I think it's high. They're really hot and cold though, but they can be woken up easily. So you take a kid like Constellanos, who's been at BC, who actually went to UCF. I don't know if a lot of people know that. So that's his familiarity with Malzahn. he was built to play in the Malzahn system, to go
Yes.
to DC, to go to Bill O'Brien, and him and Bill O'Brien clashed hard. I actually read stories because I've been following this kid for a while. To me, he's like a Kyler Murray carbon copy. So seeing him now go to Florida State with the roster that they've been piecing together, with the coach that's familiar with them, with familiarity with those teams, and playing just gap sound running football with like the option, he ran the ball like 20 some times.
He can run. I did not know he could run like that, Coach. I
Yeah,
ain't gonna lie to
he
you. He
was
looked good.
balling. He only threw the ball 14 times.
Yeah.
Completed 9 passes. And they put it on Alabama. So I don't think Alabama's some chumps. So that's definitely something to look at. But you find that quarterbacks who are, and I don't like guys jumping around at all. And we can really transition out of like college football. I think that's the last interesting thing that anyone's looking at between the series of the games is the portal, man. And like these players jumping around, like I can't pronounce some of these guys, and that's where I'm aging out for sure. Like Nico over at UCLA, who was
oh God, week. Yeah.
I wouldn't even be super harsh on him. How do you feel about him? What are your thoughts on that whole fiasco? Actually,
I mean, he and the Volunteers last year, in the playoff, they kind of got their butt whooped against the Buckeyes in the playoff. He's just okay. I don't see anything special about him. I'm glad he's at UCLA now. It's going to be an interesting team to watch the rest of the season. Granted, they did get pretty tough, or they received a tough loss against Utah last week. But I don't know. I don't see what's special about him. I really don't. Last year was a freshman with his struggles and whatnot. I understand that, but look, I just don't see what makes him stand out to be amongst the Nussmeyers and the Allers and Lenore Sellers from South Carolina, for example, in terms of the just top quarterbacks to watch. I just don't see it, what he has. So I don't really have much of an opinion on him. I hope he succeeds with the Bruins because, man, they're a California team. I love UCLA. They're obviously a good good college, a good university in Southern California. But no, I don't see anything special about him, Coach. I really don't. And maybe I'm missing something that you may have caught, but I don't know.
I think I'm starting to see a trend here. Started with Justin Fields at Georgia. He left Georgia, was able to go to Ohio State and compete right away. That's what set the stage now for like getting 5-star. Oh, Kyler Murray as well. But Kyler Murray sat behind Baker. But Kyler Murray went to Texas A&M, and he was going to succeed Johnny Manziel. But when we started getting familiarized, and a couple of quarterbacks did the grad transfer rule, where they can go and get that extra year, so they were transferring. But we started seeing like quarterback free agency. Cam Ward being one of those guys as well, then Shadeur, and somewhat exploded now. I think that's what makes this really interesting with where the football world is going. You see a quarterback, see a team, like, I'm going to go here. Or even Carson Beck at Miami. But from Justin Fields, you got Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams is like a kid that they had watched, like he's only like a 2018, 2019 kid, that he's a super modern quarterback that you got to see play in the Lincoln Riley system. And he went from Oklahoma, like really good quick, to USC to first round pick. He's the first one that like turned over really fast, crazy results at the end of Lincoln Riley's tree to like basically Nico's pedigree was like very unorthodox as a prospect. Like lanky, California, can run. He's like super hard to tackle. I feel like SEC football with like him being a California prospect and the style of play that he played up there don't mix. He's like an Oregon quarterback, or even like he's not like even a USC for like Lincoln Riley, but he does not fit what Tennessee does. It wasn't like a great system fit. So he was already looking at the market. And again, he went to the playoffs last year. So he definitely has, as an underclassman, so
he has experience.
Prospect, he definitely has like some clout where he's on some boards here. Looks like a second or third, like a third round pick today as a developmental guy. But with 2 more years of development, getting a little bigger, you're like, okay, he could definitely be pretty solid. So I don't know what happened internally with the Tennessee stuff. And that could even be him trying to leave and just creating a story internally. We don't actually know. Maybe he didn't see that future there. The unfortunate thing is that UCLA ain't that good. UCLA is not really a strong system. Deshaun Foster, former player, he's not running a tight, like, pro-style system where the reads and the way their brand of football, it ain't there. The infrastructure isn't in place. So now he just kind of looks like an idiot. And so you're going to see hit and misses because Tennessee's a better program than what he's in. So he's going to be a 4th or 5th round pick no matter what.
Fair enough.
But that's where it goes. And so where football is nowadays is that college football, which is essentially minor league football to the NFL, is a multi-million-dollar sport in a way that of the 3 other major sports is the minor league system because there's international pools for the NHL, the NBA, and MLB. And that's what makes college football revered because it's like these are the best young players and they have a ton of support. So I think college football, man, is in a pretty good spot. It could have easily been a pathway for me at a certain point in time with how much I love the game, but looking at just the turnover of coaches, the things that are somewhat desired in order to climb the ladder and what you have to sacrifice, and like you have to really love ball because you are going to be encapsulated in a world that is cutthroat and life can be really good and you can be gone faster than a player.
You're damn right. Amen to that.
With way more skin in the game. So I think that's the volatility of the sport. And so as the sport goes through some highs and lows, looking at just the college game, it has a lot to look forward to over the course of the next couple of years. But I think that's why there's some pressure on the NIL to get it right, just for the sake of the kids and to keep the sport pure to a certain degree. I think that matters to a lot of people. Only time will tell. But if that can get resolved, then I think football will still be a part of American life for a long time.
Yes, sir. And that's a good thing for all of us, to tell you that. As always, great segment there by Coach Wilson. So we got college football out of the way. We're now going to transition to the NFL landscape and Coach's thoughts on this upcoming season, including his MVP pick as well. Check it out.
I've recently had a disconnect from looking at the game as a coach and being able to look at it as a fan, but also as almost like a scientific study of a business to understand what it actually is. And it is 32 entities binded by the shield to create a union where these owners represent 32 different markets and field teams where they're trying to basically sell that shield, license their merchandise, and fill in their stadium and sell as much memorabilia and hot dogs and drinks as they possibly can. And so it is show business. And so these players are their assets. But really, I think the most interesting part of the NFL, which drives everyone in today, and what makes people, I think, glued to the television more so than anything, there are fans in these markets, but it is fantasy football. And now gambling is legal. So that takes the parlays and the solo player performance to a whole nother level. Good, bad, or indifferent, it just is what it is. I think that's what drives fan interest.
Yes.
But understanding the league's landscape as a whole is that the league doesn't have an obligation for all 32 teams to put out the best team for you. They actually just need stories. They need stories because the Browns, regardless of their performance, they're gonna sell out. I actually worked the Guardians game for the Rays last night. I'm talking about these Cleveland fans. And rain, hell or high water, don't matter, good, bad, they're showing up. They're drinking, they're going home drunk and depressed. Like, that's just what time it is in Cleveland. But the fact of the matter is that some of those teams, because they have that support, again, it's like the show goes on. And so as I'm able to now look at the league like this, first couple of things that stand out to me is Patrick Mahomes chasing the ghost of Tom Brady He's going to be solid. Andy Reid's going to coach football until he drops. That's going to be. I think that they're going to take a major step back. He may go 4 or 5 years without winning one. He may get a little older. You may forget about him. But he's still that guy. It's good. I think the smoke is kind of settled on him. But I think the Chiefs aren't the team to look out for. And I think that they're going to drop down to more of like an average level. I think that division got a little tougher. So that being the first thing, because all eyes are going to be on them. Kelsey, I think he'll be able to field 6 or 7 touchdowns. Chiefs take a step back. I think the Chargers emerge. Harbaugh ball. That's what I call it. I think
they look great.
I think not a lot of people are looking at that. Najee Harris's eye situation in the offseason. Another story, fascinating. It will get more recognition as the season goes on. But Omarion Hampton took his job. I watched that kid at UNC. He is a monster. He's going to go for 1,000. Harbaugh's going to. I feel really strongly about what they're doing out in LA. You got the Pete Carroll experience going down, or experiment rather, with the Raiders. And you got Tom Brady out there channeling the spirit of Al Davis in the white jacket and the sunglasses. So that makes football something to look at. So those are the first couple of things that stand out. I'll start with the AFC West to me. And then what we talked about off air was Joe Burrow. And I got to tell you, man, I think he is the best quarterback alive. And this is acknowledging that Tom Brady could still probably play. And to me, Joe Burrow's control of the game. He's so in tune. He's so control of his emotions, the way he throws the ball. It's actually a travesty that the Bengals can't give him a half decent roster and spend some money, because if they did, he could compete. If he's on the field, you got a shot. Patrick Mahomes gives you that feeling, but the only guy that beat Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game outside of Tom Brady is Joe Burrow. And so their inability to pay Trey Hendrickson, that's a major problem. I don't even think he's a good player, he's a difference maker. Is he probably descending now? Yeah, for sure. It's probably hard to justify that, but he's all you got. And going into the season, and they're having issues with the contract of their first round pick. I don't know if that's been hashed out yet.
Thankfully, yes. So,
okay.
yeah.
Well, again, it's like you got Joe Burrow, man, so you got a shot. I just don't think he's appreciated enough. He had some injuries in the earlier part of his career, but I just look through all the smoke and mirrors going on throughout the rest of the league. Joe Burrow just keeps the main thing, man. I expect 4,000 yards, 35 plus touchdowns, low interception ratio, and him putting the team on his back. And that's a tough division too. What are your thoughts? Because I've said a lot now about it. And so the league, again, I don't think it's good ball. I don't think the ball is great. I don't play fantasy football, but what the league's got is stories. We can talk about some stories. They got some stuff going on. How do you feel about those other 3 teams? You can talk to me about the Browns. I'll answer what you have to ask. How do you feel about this conundrum of the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers? Because that's going to dictate a lot of the NFL.
Oh, well, of course, 100%. First off, with Cincinnati, real quick. Look, offensively, the Bengals have done a lot of things to make sure that offense is going to be top tier. You re-signed T. Higgins. Jamar Chase signs an extension. The running back room, I know it's not the most electric thing in the world, but Chase Brown is a definition of a solid RB1.
Look at it done.
Yeah, he'll get it done. So offensively, they're going to be fine.
Defensively, pickup that's emerging in camp too. I forget his name.
I know the title one's Gesicki, but
Gesicki's having a great camp.
Yes,
having a great camp. So
yeah, veteran guy, played for Miami a couple years ago.
Yeah, downhill threat. He'll do well.
Yeah, he'll be good. It's just defensively. I mean, they fixed Henderson's contract to give him like a raise for this upcoming season. He's still going to be a free agent after this year.
He's on the franchise tag.
Yeah, it took him months to get the Shamar Stewart stuff done. And after, if you look at more into the contract, the Bengals kind of did get their way, and Shamar Stewart did get his money, but it wasn't at the end of the day what he wanted, which was for the contract language to be fixed. But we'll save that for another day. In terms of the North, we can start with Pittsburgh. Look, Aaron Rodgers, shout out to him, future Hall of Famer, ashwagandha type guy, whatever. No, not ashwagandha, whatever he was doing in the offseason.
Ayahuasca. Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. Thank you, coach. My apologies. Like whatever he's doing, like I shout out to him. He was a great quarterback. This is obviously his last run. I'm glad he gets to do it in a winning culture like Pittsburgh. Now it's probably going to be an average winning culture because they're probably going to go 9-8 again. I mean, that's the running joke when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they always go 9-8 and just barely get over the 500 mark. And I think that's the same here. Look, I think you look at the roster with Pittsburgh. Najee Harris is gone. He's obviously the RB2 now in Los Angeles behind Hampton. But it's interesting. You have a Caleb Johnson now coming out of Iowa. He's an intriguing rookie. You have,
Big fan of
yeah,
him.
yeah,
Big
he's
fan of him.
good. He's
Good player.
good.
Good player.
The running back they have now, Jalen Warren, he signed an
Jalen
extension
Warren,
recently,
yeah.
so he's going to be the RB1. Yeah, he's going to be the
He's
RB1 to
gonna
start the
lose the
year.
job. He's gonna lose it.
Oh no, eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
He signed an extension with them, so I think he's just gonna be that veteran guy to start the year, and then we'll see probably Caleb later on in the season. They did trade for DK Metcalf as well in the offseason. He's the receiver number one. They did
got
lose
Tyler Lockett too, I believe.
Lockett's in
Lockett's
Tennessee.
Yeah.
There you go.
They have Robert Woods, but they cut him. Roman Wilson is their wide receiver too.
That's going to be interesting to see. I know we didn't hear
He's a
much of
good
him
player.
last
I
year.
like him out of Michigan.
I hope he
didn't play
kind of
last year.
shows out this year because last year he didn't really show too much.
He broke his collarbone.
That's what it was. I was like, we didn't hear much of him. That makes sense, Nate. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
No. I think after DK Metcalf, there are some question marks as to who's going to step up behind him at the receiver position. So that's going to be an intriguing story there. Defensively, TJ Watt, I got signed right to a contract this offseason. Look, he's
the acquisition of Jalen Ramsey.
Yes, from Miami, which I still question what Miami was thinking. Plus, their secondary does not look that great, but I digress. So Jalen Ramsey in.
I'm sorry, continue.
Oh no, you're good. Jalen Ramsey, great sign and trade or a trade acquisition, I should say. So they'll be fine in Pittsburgh, but they're probably gonna go 9-8. Baltimore, look, they're probably gonna win the division. That's what I predicted as. Lamar Jackson probably gonna put up another MVP caliber season. I know Josh Allen won it last year, and I'm happy for him. But you look at the numbers, Lamar Jackson did have a pretty outstanding season himself. The only question for me is like, can he just get out of his own way and kind of advance further in the playoffs? We saw last year, like he in the divisional round, he costed him the game against Buffalo. And it's always those like he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but it's those crucial mistakes that he makes during the postseason where it's like, damn, Lamar, like you still can't get the job done. Granted, last year's a bit different because he was, the Ravens were a 2-point conversion away from going in overtime until Mark Andrews dropped it in the end zone and kumbaya. But I expect them to contend as always. Zay Flowers is still, Derrick Henry is an outstanding running back, even past the age of 30. He's still carrying the rock 250 plus times, being productive. Zay Flowers is a good, solid receiver number one. They signed DeAndre Hopkins over the offseason. Mark Andrews.
Bateman too, wide receiver 2.
Yeah, you go. Mark Andrews still a tight end number 1. Isaiah Likely is going to miss week 1 for Baltimore. But when those two tight ends are out there, there's another 2 solid weapons for Lamar. And then defensively, they're led by Patrick Queen, who's a solid linebacker himself. He used to play for the Steelers. Shout out to Marlon Humphrey as well, one of the top corners over there in Baltimore.
Right now, the highest paid the highest paid safety in the game.
Kyle Hamilton. Oh, yes, the former Notre Dame product. He's solid.
Not defensive player, not quite yet. The safety position is not valued like that, but
as much. But he's a solid safety for sure. And then finally, Cleveland. Cleveland. I will say they did as of this recording finally sign Quinshon Judkins. I don't think he'll be out there, and if he is, he won't be there out there as much for the Browns, especially after going through that domestic violence / drama off the field and the contracts. He's in kind of a bit of a pickle right now. Let's be honest, Quinshon is. But hopefully we'll see him out there sooner rather than later. But overall, offensively, the Browns got Jerry Jeudy's receiver number 1. That's great. Dylan Sampson, they also drafted this past year from Tennessee. He's a speedy back for sure. They will start the year with Jerome Ford though as the RB1. But I think, oh, then of course Myles Garrett. Oh, we gotta give him his flowers. One of the best pass rushers in the NFL. And then you have the quarterback position. So we're gonna slowly go back to you, Coach, because I want to get your thoughts on this. We have Joe Flacco, the old guy that still wants to play ball, even though he's really not that great, but he's out there and it's fun to watch, I guess. And then you have Dylan Gabriel, who's a lefty quarterback coming out of Oregon, undersized, but a lot of people have criticized undersized quarterbacks and they've kind of gone into having solid careers, i.e. Drew Brees, but I digress. But not to say Gabriel's going to be Drew Brees because he's not. But, he did win a lot of games at Oregon. However you want to put that, it's up to you guys. And then you have our favorite, right, Coach? You have Shadeur Sanders, right, who kind of had his good moments in the preseason. He looked good against Carolina, slinging the rock, doing his little rock celebration, which I still love doing with my friends and fellow podcast mates. In previous episodes, I just love just holding up the wrist. I love that celebration. I do. And then you have the bad moments, especially that last preseason game. He didn't play as well, and a lot of criticism was made towards him. But then again, he was playing with third and fourth string offensive linemen who just were being shredded, and he was constantly running out of the pocket. Now, I will say with Shadeur, he's always had the arm talent. He does, but I've so far in the preseason from the preseason, what I saw was he just got to just make better decisions. Just throw the ball away. I think there were so many times during the preseason where he was just like constantly running around, trying to make a play, which I respect. I do, but sometimes just throw the ball away. Survive another, move on to the next play, go on to the next down. Instead he's taking sacks for like 10, 15-yard losses. I'm just like, Shadeur, you're not that fast. I love you, but you're not that fast. So I expect him to start. I do. As early maybe as a week 6. But what are your thoughts on the whole Cleveland Brown situation in general? Because it's just like,
yeah, this is a complex topic, man. It's a very complex topic, and I set the stage with discussing the epiphany of what the NFL is. And there's a little bit of fatigue that I have with the game as a whole, like the Dion thing at Colorado. That's what really sparked my interest to even talk on a podcast last year, because I had been out of coaching already for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So that was somewhat keeping me connected, but I liked what they were doing. And the league, it was the connection with Cowboys and whatnot. But the league doesn't really intriguing, but I think that is what sparked it. And then you obviously see different stories that emerge. So it's like, okay, what's going on in the men's league over here? And then they kind of correspond with one another.
Yeah.
But why this matters is because the Cleveland Browns actually, over the course of the last 6 years, Kevin Stefanski, which he's their longest tenured coach, I believe now.
I know, believe it or not.
Since the genesis of this new Browns expansion team. So he is a Princeton alum, and he is he's very structured and an offensive line guy. I feel like from his play calling and the Browns being very controlled with play action game, pro style, having a good front seven, getting after the passer, within their climate and their division, they've actually been built to go to war within the trenches. And they've had a lot of turnover at receiver, but they've spent that receiver over the last decade, actually. They've always had some pretty good receivers. They just can't get the quarterback in place. But I think because Stefanski's just a good coach, undoubtedly, and I think that the AFC West between Zach Taylor, Mike Tomlin, the old identity of looking from the Titans, the old identity of Mike Vrabel, to how the Colts play, to the Ravens. A lot of those teams all play similar sort of running physical styles. And I think that the Browns have a structure in place. They're not just looking for the guy, which is why Stefanski has a really long leash, because I don't get the impression that they don't care if Shadeur hits or doesn't hit, or it doesn't even seem to me like he was the guy that they desired. And it's kind of like that staff has to just deal with the burden of him, and they'll evaluate him how they deem fit. I don't think that there's any plan for him. I think that the Browns are just in sort of like we have Flacco, and if Shadeur can come and sell some jerseys and make it interesting, cool. But we're probably going to draft a quarterback in the next year, and we still have Myles Garrett, and we like Stefanski, and we know that this division is kind of turbulent, but the Steelers are trending down. The Bengals can't figure it out, and so we're just one hot year away from getting into the playoffs. We can just figure this quarterback thing out. That's where they're at. Okay, Joe Flacco is a stopgap guy. So Joe Flacco gives a coach like Stefanski a ton of stability. They're talking to each other like peers, and like they understand the temperament of all the receivers. Joe Flacco knows what he sees on defense. Stefanski knows his system. It's incredibly stable for an organization like the Browns that have been incredibly chaotic, right? They obviously figured out that Kenny Pickett can't play worth a lick. And the guy that they drafted, because it made sense for where they're at the organization, is Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is a career backup quarterback that started more games than anyone else in college football history, that's just undersized with a noodle arm, but he has pretty good leadership, and he'll be a backup, and he can be serviceable and probably play about 2 to 12 years. Right? He's like a leader. He's just like a locker room guy. Comes from that Samoan culture. I believe he's a Hawaii prospect as well. So like he just, that culture is strong, and I love that. I have nothing bad to say about the kid whatsoever. One thing I'm a little concerned about is he's a little smaller in stature in Cleveland, and with smaller hands and stuff doesn't really fit well. He's a guy that you want to see playing like a warm climate on the West Coast, but he's a backup. So you throw Shadeur in the mix. And so when people look at it, I understand the politics of the 32 entities working together to protect the Shield for merchandising and licensing agreements and getting TV deals and trying to globalize. So if they decide as a collective, which off of sheer talent alone, it's just apparent, I think, to the human eye that Shadeur Sanders was not equally evaluated, because any person would reasonably say that he's probably no further than like the 56th overall player in last year's draft, like max, like a worst case scenario. So it's evident that they weren't, like, he was blackballed in some shape or form. But I also feel like because the Browns are the storyline to the league, very much in a similar fashion, like how the Lakers are like a storyline to the NBA, of like be like the same thing. It's just like negative sides of the spectrum. Is that the NFL gets the most dynamic story ever in a nothing to lose scenario. It's really like a zero-sum game, because if Shadeur Sanders, who said, don't draft me if you don't want me to be the face of the franchise, and this is where I want to synthesize this with, Nate, because I've watched this whole thing collectively, and this is really sociology, more so than anything else. All he has done is go to Jackson State when no one expected him to and win games with very little. And then he goes to Colorado. His dad looks kind of crazy. They're in the Pac-12, playing a super tough conference. He goes in and has a pretty solid year. It's the only singular thing that's keeping him alive. Now you got to understand, dude, he doesn't turn the ball over. He does not throw picks. And he doesn't throw picks because he understands the weight on his shoulders, so he's not going to beat himself. So he'd rather take a bad sack, but he's not going to be doing giveaways, because he's like literally playing possession for possession. He understands, like, I have to do everything. As he gets in a league that's stable, where the team builds around him, he will understand his leash and what he can and can't do. But he's been having to play damn near perfect all of his college career to win games. So when he sits up there with his hat on backwards with some braids and a big-ass chain as an arrogant son of one of the most dynamic athletes ever, who's already polarizing to begin with, and so the average person doesn't know any of these nuances. All they see is an arrogant kid who only won about 15 games at Colorado and previously played for an HBCU and isn't really that fast, and he's a black quarterback. So, like, what do? You're not Cam Newton size, and you don't run like Lamar, and you don't have the strongest arm. So, like, you're just really cocky. Like, that's how the average person looks at him. It's just what it is. So when he sits up there and he says this, because you and I know that he's done nothing but play winning football throughout his college career. And he says, don't draft me if you don't want me to be the face of the franchise. If you're not trying to win and do that. It's kind of ironic to me, in some sort of Cinderella story, where it's like he has now this Tom Brady, like, hero's journey, where it's like all of his pedigree, they're gonna make him go in the mud, literally, like
Literally, yeah.
go in the mud, beat out 3 other guys, and heroically be the Browns starter for the next 13, 14 years, because that's who I think that guy is to his soul. And I think that he's the man for that job. If we were to look at like the football story and the football gods blessing the Browns in sort of heroic way, not to be so super mythical, but if he is who he thinks he is, then that's what will occur. But very easily, he could just be like diluted and kind of bounce around and be a journeyman. Maybe get like 1 or 2 years of being like a star, could be like a Tavares Jackson or like ceiling Geno Smith. He'd be lucky if he can play as long as Teddy Bridgewater. And I don't mean to compare him to I just compare him to these guys because they're like black pocket passers. I think he's far better than both of them. But I also think that I don't really have a other comp for him in that regard. He's kind of like a rhythm, like I guess like not really a Stafford, doesn't have like a Stafford arm, like a little bit more than a game manager. You see what I mean? Can play pro style, but it's like kind of like a Geno Smith. It's like a better Geno Smith to me. But he's far more dynamic with his personality and his leadership. But that's how I feel the Brown situation will be handled. I don't think they really care. And there's also a chance that maybe a team just gives a whole lot of capital to the Browns and gets like a 2 and a 4. And it's like, we want Shadeur right now in an already solid situation where they feel like they're ready to win, and they just give some pieces mid-season and just like commit to him because they just know that he's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he still has bad habits. I think that he's still like in the league. He's definitely not been dominant enough in college to like taking those bad sacks and stuff. Like he needs to get comfortable, and that shit needs to stop like ASAP. Because that's still not good football.
You can't be doing it. Like as much as we praise him, you can't be, running around when things get tough and just start taking sacks. Like I get it. He didn't turn the ball over as much as Colorado, and he's just that type of guy that doesn't do so. But like just throw the ball away. That's why there's an out of bounds 100%. Line for a reason. Just throw the ball out, live to play another down, all those things. And hopefully he does learn and develop. I'm rooting for him. I really am. A lot of people aren't doing so, whether it's because of who his father is or just the way he acts. But at the end of the day, he's a good player and he wins games for you. We saw that at Colorado, especially during, I know he had Travis Hunter as his receiver number 1. I get that. And he had plenty of other receivers out there, like a Wester and a Shepard and a Jimmy Horn during his time with the Buffaloes. But at the same time, like there were times where he won them those games, like with his arm, like the Hail Mary throw, like that was an amazing throw that he made. So look, he operates the way he does. As long as he learns and develops and produces on the field when his time comes, fan freaking tastic, and the whole world can finally just be at peace with just the fact that, hey, just because he's Deion's son doesn't mean we should be like disrespecting him or whatever the case may be. Like he is a good kid that just wants to play ball, and he loves and cares about the game. So I do hope he gets that chance in Cleveland. I think he should deserve an opportunity to show he could be the answer, more than Gabriel for sure. I do think all 3 quarterbacks will be playing this year for the Browns, Flacco, Gabriel, and Shadeur. But I do hope Shadeur does produce and kind of show Cleveland and the rest of the NFL like, hey, when you put me in a good situation, with a good offensive line, unlike what he went through in the preseason and at his time in Colorado, because that offensive line was just not it most of the time.
Hot garbage.
Yeah, that I can produce. So I wish him nothing but the best. I do. So, all right, real quick, Coach. I know we talked about the AFC North. We won't dive into all the divisions, of course, in this one. We'll obviously have you back on in the future. Super Bowl pick. I know. I know.
Oh, good question. Yeah. Good question, man. We talked about a lot today, man. And I think something's got a lot more to dive into. I think we got a lot of gold out of it. And I think it really puts in perspective. I don't know if I'll be on anytime soon, especially within the regular season. Just being honest with the way my calendar is looking. Definitely want to catch you by college football playoff time.
Yes.
Or, one of those episodes is we're transitioning over into like Super Bowl maybe.
Yes.
So we're able to run this back, but I'm happy that we covered so much about what week 1 looked like, the storyline, certain players, certain dynamics where we can reflect back in the archives down the road and see how things panned out in either direction. And especially some of the stories that we hit home on the divisions. And I think we hit home on the divisions and the stuff that matters. Because like we said, the AFC North does determine a lot. And my Super Bowl pick obviously comes from the North. I feel super strong with it. It just flew right through me. I got my Super Bowl pick. I'll give it to you right now, man. Super Bowl will be played in 2026 this year. Is it in, which city is it in? Can you give it to me?
San
LA?
Francisco. San
It's in San
Francisco.
Francisco. It's in
Yes,
San
sir.
Francisco. I got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Green Bay Packers.
Oh shoot. Okay. Interesting.
Um,
You say Green Bay though. I'm interested about that one.
what do you got?
For me, I got Buffalo in the AFC. I think this is finally the year that Josh Allen gets his team to the promised
Okay.
land, takes down Mahomes in the conference championship. Look, I love Lamar, but look, I know the Ravens are gonna choke again. I know it's the most.
I like the Ravens as an organization. I think
I do too.
I think this is
Oh
the year
yeah,
they get over the hump. I'm not like super like I'm not saying any of this because like I believe or don't believe. I just
yeah.
think that this is like the year from a storyline standpoint. I think that this is like the year that they do it. I see Lamar Jackson winning the Super Bowl this year. I just
I
see
feel
it.
it. Yeah, I got
The
Buffalo in
world's
the.
ready for it. I don't know. It's like the energy within the world that
I
I
feel you.
feel Lamar Jackson winning the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think the time is now.
I got you.
Lamar's ready to win. Yeah.
But no, I got Buffalo in the AFC. At this time, I'm gonna go Detroit in the NFC. But at the end of the day, Buffalo's taking it.
Dude, come on, Nate. Let me save you. Let me save you. They lost both of their coordinators. They're
I
gonna
know,
take
but
it.
they still they look. The corners that replaced them, they've been part of the organization for quite some time. No, no.
I would not do
Okay.
that. They're gonna take a step back. That division got tougher, dude.
It did. Oh no, it did.
That is gonna be a dog fight, bro.
Oh yeah.
They're not the same team as last year. They're good though, man. I love the offense. They've been solid, but the Super Bowl, no. The NFC's anyone's ball game, man.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say.
I see the Rams getting hot, man. I really do. I could see Devontae Adams going off for 1,412 tutties. Puka going off again for about 90, 1,300.
That to me that's great and dandy.
Well,
To me that's great and dandy. But like when you have to go to Philly in the playoffs, in like you did last
but they
year.
barely won last year, and the Rams shouldn't have even been there. The
Yeah,
Rams
no.
got hot late. I'm saying the Rams are like their roster's better now. They got a young D line, but McVay is basically rebuilt on the fly. Like they're like even if
kind of a reload type of.
What was that?
Type like a reload type of thing instead of
Like a reload thing.
Yeah.
It's rebuilt on the fly. I've read quite a bit actually that the Seattle Seahawks are tooling up on defense. Mike McDonald came from Baltimore. They got some good pieces out there in Seattle. The Sam Darnold experience going with Cooper Kupp. That's going to be interesting out in Seattle. That's not really getting talked about at all.
I think it's because it's Sam Darnold, and it's like, are you going
to
get this?
You got a little bit of a bag.
Yeah, and it's just like, are you gonna get the Sam Darnold that played really good in the first half of the year last year, or are you gonna get Week 18 Sam Darnold where he just completely just yeah.
Why are you holding this man up to one day? You said Week 18 Sam Darnold.
Well, I'm just saying because we've seen
man Week 18 like Sam Darnold's whole body of work in his career. You're like, well, are we gonna get Week?
Well, because I think it's because we've seen
Darnold?
Because we've seen so much bad of him. Like he's not. Like, was it really him that was doing really good last year, or was it really because Kevin O'Connell is just an amazing quarterback whisperer?
I agree.
So to me, I'm just like, so
or
maybe
Darnold never had the structure. Maybe Darnold was the guy who just needed to find a home.
True.
You know.
So maybe I portrayed him in a bad light. So maybe not just Week 18, but
neither of us know. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think Sam Darnold has some tools. I think he's a big body, he has a strong arm, and I liked his demeanor coming out. He's poised. He doesn't seem like he takes himself like just like Cali cool. I just think he has the temperament to be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick for a reason, Coach.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like I just didn't like any of his situations. I don't think he was really built for New York. He had to go to San Francisco. It was kind of like a weird spot. It was then.
Yeah, I forget.
He went to Carolina. Oh no, that's Carolina.
There you go.
Carolina.
That was.
I don't think anyone could have done anything there. And then he went to San Francisco. Yeah, man, he turned into a journeyman. But I think he got to learn. Like Geno Smith, same thing.
Yeah,
same thing. So I think Sam Darnold's that. Geno Smith has not been a fluke. Geno Smith's been playing good ball for about 3-4 years now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he's gonna hopefully thrive in Vegas. So, but Sam Darnold, I know he got the bag, but Jalen Miller was waiting in the wings.
Oh my
Whenever that.
God, no way. Jalen Miller will never be the team's starter going in. It's like the proclaimed starter. You may start because
Well, not this year,
he
but
will
I give it a
never
couple.
be the
I give it a
guy.
couple years. I give it a couple years.
You
Give
think
him a
he'll
shot.
be the guy?
I think I think he has the tools. The tools. He can throw the deep ball like no other. It's just he literally just
Whoa.
needs to improve on making short and intermediate throws. That's the only thing for me with him is that he can just make those simple throws. But he can hey, he's a dual threat guy. He could sling it. We've seen that multiple occasions on during his time at Bama, and he could run.
I've never felt more strongly about a guy's lack of ability to like do something at like projecting at a level. Jalen Milroe cannot play quarterback in the NFL. He cannot be a
Really?
starter. I think he's
Damn.
horrible. I think he's
Okay.
horrible at throwing the football. Yeah, you cannot. He may be able to win games. There have been guys worse than him that have started NFL games. So like for sure. But he's a project.
Fair enough. Oh yeah, he's a project now. I know for this season they're gonna put him in for certain plays and whatnot, which will more than likely be option plays, running
Of
plays and
course.
whatnot.
He's
So
fast. I think he ran a 4.37.
he's quick. That is one thing for certain. He's quick. So
Put
we'll
him at running
see.
back.
Maybe. Hey, I mean, hell, what's it called? The Eagles when they drafted Jalen Hurts. I'm not comparing. Well, no, I'm not gonna compare the two because Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl champion. But we're talking about two quarterbacks who came from Alabama, were drafted to kind of just be a designed come in for a play or two to run the ball.
Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts went to Oklahoma and threw the ball downfield. Jalen Hurts went spent that last year at Oklahoma and threw the ball.
That's right. That's right.
He,
So
he he got one more extra year, and then he sat behind Tua for a year. He started for 2 years as a sheer runner with dreads. Then he lost his job to Tua, sat. He stayed there. He sat for a year, and then he played his last year at Oklahoma, and he lit it up.
yeah.
So that Jalen Hurts is not uh, just like a runner at all. He's a much like coming out as a prospect to me.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to give you a comparison here, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be. He had much more downfield throws than Dak Prescott did as a prospect coming out of college, and Jordan Love. He had much better throws than them downfield, just like it's like a historical body of work.
I remember when the Eagles drafted Hurts. I was just like, you already have Carson Wentz. Like, what's the point of Hurts? Well, here we are today, and Hurts is a Super Bowl champion who can just do it all. So, shout out to the Eagles, man.
Value a backup quarterback too. There's some teams that you see, like the Commanders do as well.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple teams that are like ready to just like dish out money for like a second guy. The Vikings also, like if let's say JJ McCarthy got hurt mid-season, the Vikings would just cough up 2 number ones and go get someone.
I don't know about all number ones, but
I'm saying like, they've done that historically multiple times. Like they're the Eagles, the Vikings, like they play that style like within their franchise. All right, well the Bucks, like we'll just go get one like quick. Like because that's kind of weird. You don't see teams aggressively like the Broncos. And teams have patterns of doing the same things.
Yeah, fair enough. So
the Dolphins and the Jets, the Dolphins and the Jets always trade for toys.
Well, the Dolphins should get themselves a backup quarterback because if Tua goes down again, Quinn Ewers is going in there. So we'll see how that goes over there in Miami.
No, Zach Wilson's going in there.
Well, it's still bad either way, coach. So let's keep this. It's as simple as that. But, coach, a lot of fun as always. We talked college ball. We talked NFL. We hope to see you soon. If not, we'll see you hopefully down the line for the college football playoff and towards the end of the NFL regular season. But what does the future hold for you? We haven't spoken quite some time before this, and it's really good to see you as always. I always have a lot of fun talking ball with you. So, yeah, what does the future hold? Where can people find you on social media as always? And yeah,
to wrap things up. You call me coach, and pretty good amount of people in my life still do call me coach. I actually working the baseball game yesterday, ironically enough. Just doing my job. Someone goes, Coach Wilson!
Okay.
You don't remember me? You remember came back and he's like Marcel, like said his name, like I said his name. I already kind of said it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I got my coach over here. And he's talking about him, man. It was funny to do that, to kind of experience that because I've coached in a lot of different places, done a lot of different things. Now, obviously, the company that I created is more so a system
Yes.
Really taking a lot of how I evaluate personnel and performance indicators like analytics in baseball, but turning businesses and teams into a way to analyze metrics and understand how the different components that's going to allow people to perform. It's just gotten a lot more intentional. So I'm really in the weeds more so than anything else between doing that and working security. And that's more or less my life these days. And it's going to be on autopilot, just kind of chipping away for an extended period of time. So it's kind of like I'm in the season, which I love because it's a job and a life that I created for myself. But it's like, I remember when camp would start as a player and as a coach, it's like, all right, buckle up, family, friends. You're not going to see anybody for a while. Long nights, early mornings. You live for it. There's nothing like game day. Well, having some of that. And so my life being really structured. So there's going to be times where I'm going to be able to go to a couple games, probably in mid to late October, travel probably in November, December. Hoping to catch Texas, Oklahoma. That's been on my radar.
That's a big
Even
one.
definitely going to catch a bowl game or two and some playoff games, but it's going to be kind of chopped up down the stretch. But definitely going to be watching quite a bit. And definitely like when I'm out at dinner on like weekends and stuff, nothing I love more than kind of stumbling in on games, getting a bunch of TVs, running in on the box score. So outside of me and being in my season, man, I'll obviously be watching you and your notifications every time I see a new episode popping up. As far as social media, you'll see me logging my miles, man, and some blogs. Maybe a geek on some podcasts here and there, but really just tunnel vision as far as being an analyst and doing things with my company. So that's where I'm going to be at, and maybe I'll catch you, around playoff time, summarizing the way the season panned out. So
Yes, sir.
appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure to talk ball, and even with this weekend, there's still a lot of ball to be played. So excited to see where things go Monday morning when you're evaluating, whoa, what happened in the football world.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, man, we're in it. We are in it.
As always, a great episode. Shout out to Coach Wilson for joining us tonight. You can follow him on social media at Anton G. Wilson. That is ANTONEG Wilson on X or Twitter, however you want to call it. And as always, you can follow me at Nathan underscore no 124 and our podcast page at Third and 10 Pod. And our TikTok is at Third and 10 Podcast. Again, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you guys as always. And we'll see you guys in the next one. And Brian will be back to join us as well. So thank you again.